Welcome in, Braves Today, bravestoday.com. He is Lindsay Crosby. I am Ben Taylor. This is Braves Today, and it's all brought to you by the way, by Active Wealth and Active Wealth Management. Be sure to go to annuity360.net for your free book today. And if you don't like to read, then you can go to Plains Coffee, and you can get plainscoffee.com. Usually reading and coffee go together, so maybe you should just hit up both sites and use promo code BRAVES to get your 10% off. Lindsay, I think the hottest news that's taken place in the last week or so has been Spencer Strider and his comments, where we had always heard about this culture inside the Braves locker room, or Braves Clubhouse, if you will, about how professional they are and how the expectations are, let's just call it, during the heyday of Tom Brady, I guess Patriot-esque for what they expected when you walked in a locker room. That held true when Spencer Strider basically said the quiet part out loud and said, yeah, it's World Series every year for us. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said.
Yeah, it was so at Braves Fest on Saturday, which fantastic attendance in the rain, like phenomenal.
Oh, yeah,
but
it looked terrible.
yeah, the exact quote was, I think that there should be no acceptance of anything less than winning a World Series in this organization. I said it a little bit ago, and I believe it, but I'm biased. This is the most talented team in baseball. We need to set our bar as high as possible, and anything less than that is an underachievement for us. And I feel like there's not many teams that can make this argument, right? Like, can say,
No.
We should be World Series or bust. Like, we are good enough where just winning the division and making it to the postseason is not enough. And like off the top of my head, in the National League, the Braves, the Dodgers, and I think that's probably really about it. Maybe the Phillies, because they've made 2 straight deep runs into the postseason. They made the World Series, and then they made the NLCS. So maybe them as well. But I personally, I love this, right? I love this from the perspective of, one, the fans have been frustrated that Atlanta was eliminated so early in 2 straight postseasons. And so, like, this kind of shows, like, hey, they're aware. Yes. They're not happy about it either. They're as fired up as you are about it. And I think you can see where Alex Anthopoulos did stuff this offseason. I think you can see that Alex Anthopoulos kind of feels the same way. Like, it would have been very easy to just run it back in 2024. Just pick up Eddie Rosario's option. You're like, okay, look at our rotation. We won 100-something games with that rotation. We're just going to bring them all back. We're going to keep, in essence, the same bullpen around, and we're just going to try it again. And instead, you saw Alex Anthopoulos make a ton of trades, go out and get Jared Kelenic, go out and get Chris Sale, which is, you don't need Chris Sale to win games in June. You need Chris Sale to win games in October. Like, Chris Sale is not here to help you in June. He's going to pitch, obviously, but he's here for October. And so, a lot of people are like, don't give out bulletin board material. Don't set expectations too high. No, I think Atlanta needed to do this. I love Spencer Strider coming out and saying this, because this is not something you would have heard out of most players in that clubhouse, because everybody understands when you say this, the expectations become higher, the pressure becomes a little bit more. But I think as fans needed to hear that people inside the team or on the team understand the last 2 postseasons were not acceptable.
Thanks to Florida Active Wealth Management, is he's always hooking us up, and now he's hooking you up, and you need to call him today. Get your nationwide peak of 10 illustrations so you can learn how you can get 20% immediate income and account bonuses along with 8% annual interest in growth. Go to activewealth.com or call Ford 770-685-1777. That's 770-685-1777. Lindsay, a couple of things I want to run off of you based on what you just said right there. Number one is, in the National League, yes, I think the World Series undoubtedly goes through LA and Atlanta. I think those are the only 2 teams. You mentioned the Phillies. Even on, and I told you I love this group. By the way, if you're not a part of it, go to the Facebook group. It's called NL East Uncensored. It is basically triggered Mets and Phillies fans always complaining. So it's actually awesome. They literally live in misery. But one of the fans even put on there, said, yeah, we've gotten better, but we're no Braves or no Dodgers. So I think they even realize that it's got to go through Atlanta or LA to get to the World Series.
See, and this is where I think that's a little bit of a I'm not gonna make them angry by calling it a loser mentality, but I think for Phillies fans to say, yeah, no, it goes through Atlanta. I don't think you give your own team enough credit. I guarantee you Bryce Harper is not thinking,
No.
oh man, we got to beat the Braves or it's not a good season. He's thinking we got to make the World Series.
Yeah.
And if like just looking at like, okay, they went 90 and 72 last year, but again, it's 2 straight years of deep October runs for a roster that arguably is built for October. And so from that perspective of you did it the last 2 years, that's why I, for 2024 at least, have them in that same group as the Braves and the Dodgers, simply because they've been there 2 straight years. If Philadelphia stumbles and barely makes it in the wild card, gets knocked out in the first round, I probably don't have them in this group for 25. Right. But the amount of money the Dodgers have spent, they're obviously there. The team, the full, complete, in every respect team the Braves have built and the juggernaut that they've built in the regular season in the last few years, they're there. And then for me, the Phillies, with how deep they've made it in the last 2 seasons, you've got to have them there. It's just like in the American League. Houston's a team, to me, that needs to be World Series or bust because they've made it to 2 of the last 3 World Series and they've gone so deep. Whereas there's not really anybody else over there in the American League, with maybe the exception of the Yankees because of how much money they keep spending and the fact it's New York, that really needs to be a World Series or bust kind of thing. But in the National League, you got a couple powerhouses. And to me, again, glad Spencer Strider said this. Glad the fans got to hear it so they know, yes, they're also taking it seriously.
And Murphy did not say this, but one of the quotes that came out of the weekend was somebody asked him about this particular team, and he said, "This is exactly what I came here for. We went out and we got better." He didn't say World Series or bust, but he said we got better. So when you look at a team that had 100-plus wins last year and the team already believes that they can do that plus some this year, that ought to let you know where you stand as far as the team is concerned. Hey, don't forget to go check out plainscoffee.com. Use promo code BRAVES. Get your 10% off. You can get all that flavored coffee as well that they have. Pecan pie. Yes, it's pecan pie. It's not pecan for all you Phillies fans that are listening. Chocolate hazelnut. We got mocha, not to mention pumpkin spice for all of you that already want winter and fall to be here again. Cinnamon hazelnut, Cinnabon, and a whole lot more. Again, it's plainscoffee.com and enter the promo code BRAVES. Really do hope a Philly fan goes and orders it. Because they have to use the promo code Braves.
Hey, use the promo code Philly and we'll charge you 10% more.
That's right.
It's not actually my company. I'm just making a joke. I don't know here.
Exactly. So use the promo code Braves and get your 10% off. The other article that I wanted to touch on that you wrote as well, Lindsay, and that is basically chances for people to make the opening day roster. And I'm going to start bottom up just because you've got them starting at around 5%. On the opening day roster. And I'm going to run through 3 names at a time right here at the beginning so we can concentrate on some of the more, I guess, higher percentages a little bit later on. And that is outfielder Luplow, Velasquez, who's the infielder that the Braves picked up, and then, of course, Luke Williams, the other outfielder. All basically, I mean, you got Williams at a 15% chance, but all basically it seems like about 10% chance or less in order to make opening day roster.
Yeah, so... And if you're looking for this article on the site, it's called "The Braves Have Decisions to Make on Their Bench Roles for 2024." So obviously you've got 4 spots. Travis d'Arnaud is 110% locked for one of these. So I'm not even counting that as one of the spots that's open. For Jordan Luplow,
as a matter of fact, you wrote he was 125%.
There you go. It's over 100%. As long as he's healthy, he's there. Yeah. Okay, so for Jordan Luplow, the Braves signed him last offseason to a minor league deal. Like, they liked him enough to go out and get him, but then they also DFA'd him in early April. Right. I think that your 40-man roster is a little different this year. We've talked about this before. You've got so many open spots. You can add more when injured pitchers go on the 60-day. You probably don't have to DFA him, but he didn't perform that well, and they didn't use him last year. So I've got him in the back of the outfield pecking order for now, with the caveat of he has the most experience of any outfielder that's in the organization right now at the minor league level. So that could change, but that's where I've got him there. Velasquez, similar kind of thing. Ton of experience. They didn't pick him up until September, and offensively, he's never really been good. He has a career 189 batting average, and so he's your guy that he is empty defense. Like, he can give you defense at short, but that's all that he can contribute. And
Okay.
it feels like this roster's at the point where you want guys who might be a little bit better. And Luke Williams is kind of in that same boat for me. They got him off of waivers from the Dodgers last year. He was promoted in like August, and I think he made one start. It's that day after you clinch the division where as many regulars as possible can rest because everybody's hungover. He got that start. And same kind of thing. Like even when they promoted him, they didn't really use him. He was the backup pinch running option behind Forrest Wall. And so I've got him, 10, 15%. The only reason he's higher than 5% is because he's literally played every position but catcher, and he was on the roster some last year, and they do value clubhouse fit. So maybe there's some unknown there we don't know about. But either way, none of them are the favorites to be the guy.
You move on to Garcia, who's more of a utility player because he's listed as infielder / outfield. And then, of course, the outfielder, JP Martinez, who the Braves just acquired, who I thought may have a chance. However, you've got him listed at 25%.
Yeah, so when it comes to Garcia, Atlanta signed him as left the White Sox last season. Career 253 batter. He's got like 34 homers in 700 games. He gives you more defensive versatility than David Fletcher. He's played every position but first base and catcher. So there's that. But also he's not been in the organization and he's not making very much money. And so I've got him kind of farther behind. Martinez was tough to me. You went out and acquired him. You did trade a top 30 prospect to get him. So that's why I have him at 25%. And for me, it came down to it's a very similar profile to Forrest Wall. Defensively, very good. He's got good speed, but Forrest Wall's been in the organization, spent time on the major league roster. Martinez has not. And so if it's a tie for me, I'm giving the tiebreaker and the extra percentage I gave to Forrest Wall because of that clubhouse fit and how Atlanta values that. If Forrest Wall was not a good clubhouse guy, he probably wouldn't have stuck on the roster last year or made the postseason roster.
And you gave him a 50-50 shot. So since we covered Wall, we'll move on up to basically the top three, and that's going to be Fletcher, who was acquired this past offseason. Then the odds go up to 75% when you start Guillorme. And then, of course, we've already covered d'Arnaud. We know he's going to be on the opening day roster just because Murphy's not going to catch 162 games this year.
Yeah, so Fletcher is one of the more accomplished options for your bench, right? Like he's played over 150 starts at shortstop for the Angels, and then also to go along with that, he's played plenty at second base. Those are the two positions in your infield where you've had the most injuries, with both Arcia and Ozzie missing time, and then the fact that Fletcher's still owed 2 years and $12.5 million in salary, and if you count the buyouts, it's like $14 million that Atlanta owes David Fletcher. Makes me feel like if nothing else, you want him to hopefully show somebody at the major league level, and best case scenario, you trade him later. But because the fact that you owe him money in multiple seasons, he's been a starting shortstop for a long time in MLB. Yeah. I've got Fletcher as your primary shortstop backup to Orlando Arcia. And then Guillorme, they obviously valued him enough to sign him to a major league deal.
Yes.
Just a couple weeks ago. And so he's played a lot of third. He's played a lot of second. He's played some first. He has played shortstop. He's not bad at shortstop, but he's played every infield position at a pretty high level. And when he's healthy, because he was really hurt last year, when he's healthy, I feel like he could still be a useful piece. And so I've got Guillorme as kind of your corner infield backup, Fletcher as your middle infield backup, and then Forrest Wall was the outfielder with Travis d'Arnaud at catcher. And the thought process for me is, do you want, of all of these players we've mentioned, who do you want starting if somebody's hurt and out for 15 days? And you're probably picking Guillorme to start at third.
Yep.
You're probably picking Fletcher to start at short. You're probably picking Forrest Wall as of right now to be your outfield guy, but it could be JP Martinez. And then obviously Travis d'Arnaud's going to be your guy if Sean Murphy gets hurt. So trying to break that down and trying to figure out what Atlanta's going to do is kind of a fetal task, but I was like, let me go with what we know about how this team likes to operate. They value defense. They value a clubhouse fit. Let's give preference to the guys they either actively went out and got on major league deals or guys that have been here before. And that's kind of how we came out with that projection of d'Arnaud, Wall, Guillorme, and Fletcher.
Oh, I think it's on point because I think if training camp if opening day was this weekend, I firmly believe that those guys will be on the roster. The basically the top, of course, we know Darno is, but the other two probably are going to be there. And then after that, you're kind of hit or miss on who you're going to sit down there and triple A Gwinnett and who you're going to have on the field.
Yeah, and I feel like of those four, Forrest Wall's probably the one who has the slimmest hold on the job, simply because you did go out and trade an actual asset for Martinez. But again, if all things are equal, you're probably going to default to the guy who's been on the roster before. And I think throwing the caveat in there, you could always re-sign a guy like a Kevin Pillar in the next couple weeks before spring training, but it's probably who of Wall and Martinez plays best in spring training. And until we know that, I'm going to give the edge to the guy who's been here before in Wall. But that's probably the least safest of the four jobs is Forrest Wall, simply because he's honestly not incredibly accomplished at the major league level. He made 2 starts. He had 15 plate appearances last year, and those were his first 15 plate appearances in the major leagues in his career. So there is a lack of experience. Martinez doesn't have much more. It's not like Martinez is a tenured veteran, but like that's kind of why it's still even. If you re-sign Kevin Pillar, I'd probably have him at 75% right now.
Yeah, Kevin Pillar, and he's still out there, by the way, those who are looking. Hey, go give a shout out to our sponsors, Active Wealth Management. Thank Ford and the guys there at annuity360.net. Grab your free book, or you can get 10% off by entering the promo code BRAVES if you go to plainscoffee.com. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. That is Braves Today. Catch all of Lindsay's written work along with our other writers as well at bravestoday.com. Lindsay, as always, I appreciate it, brother.
Thanks, buddy.